I get asked frequently for advice on which electric skateboard to buy. Electric skateboards are expensive, so it's understandable that you want to get the one that's right for you and not waste your money. In this video, I'll help you narrow down the choices and show you things like what features you should care about and which manufacturer specs you should completely ignore. The aim is to help you choose your first electric skateboard and be confident that you're making the right choice. If you're new here, my channel has a bunch of electric skateboard reviews. Tap that info icon at the top of the video to see some of them. I also have a page full of discounts for different boards, so check that out before you make a purchase. Let's start narrowing down the choices by categorizing the different boards based on size. And later, we'll talk about things like drivetrain, range, and other specs. Electric skateboards come in a variety of sizes. I'll briefly describe each and then I'll get into their pros and cons. The majority of electric skateboards on the market are around 37 to 40 inches in length and have wheels around 80 to 100 millimeters in diameter. We'll call this category the longboards. And then there are shortboards or mini boards, which are mostly around 28 to 32 inches in length, with wheels around 70 to 90 millimeters. And finally, there are the all-terrain boards. They're about the same length or a little bit longer than the longboards, but they're heavier, use much bigger wheels, and have wider trucks. There are also specialty boards that I consider outside of these categories, but I think the vast majority of people should get their first board from within these three. Now I'll go over the pros and cons of each. Short electric skateboards can fit inside of many lockers, and a few of them that offer smaller capacity batteries can even be taken on airplanes. Most of them come with a kicktail, which helps with turning at very low speeds, repositioning the board, and picking up the board. Because of their shorter wheelbase, shortboards are the least stable and the least comfortable to ride. They're also the most difficult to ride. Out of all three size categories, shortboards require the smoothest roads. While their shorter length make them more portable than longboards in some situations, most, but not all of them, weigh just as much. I generally would not recommend getting a shortboard as your first or your only electric skateboard. If you have a specific need for one, then go for it. But if you're not sure and you're indifferent about which size to get, then I would skip shortboards for now and consider the other sizes. Out of the three size categories, the electric longboards come in the biggest variety, which is great if you know what features you're looking for. Like any traditional longboard with reverse kingpin trucks, they can easily be set up for carving or for speed, depending on your personal preference. And unlike the heavy all-terrain boards, they are far more portable. The most common issue I see with electric longboards is that some people find that their wheels are too small for less than ideal roads in their cities. While some longboards allow you to use larger wheel sizes up to around 120 millimeters, most do not. And those that do come with major trade-offs when using larger wheels, such as reduced range, reduced acceleration, and reduced brake strength. The longboard size is the one that I would recommend for most people, as long as the wheels are appropriate for the roads they'll be used on. This size offers the most similar experience to skating on a traditional longboard. As long as you're realistic with your expectations about what your electric skateboard can do, I feel that the longboard size is the most enjoyable. All-terrain boards can handle the widest variety of surfaces, including dirt roads and grass fields. Some of them are 2-in-1, meaning they allow you to use large all-terrain wheels as well as regular longboard wheels. Most all-terrain boards on the market use double kingpin trucks for improved maneuverability, which is great if you like double kingpin trucks. All-terrain boards weigh quite a bit more than the other two categories, making them by far the least portable. If you frequently need to pick up your board or carry it up and down stairs, this is something to consider. For whatever reason, most all-terrain boards on the market use double kingpin trucks, which are really annoying to fine-tune compared to reverse kingpin trucks. They're also too squirrely at high speeds unless you tighten your trucks a lot, which negates the purpose of having double kingpin trucks in the first place. While all-terrain wheels are great for going over rough terrain, they need to be properly balanced if you want to go fast. Otherwise they'll wobble, like an off-balance ceiling fan or a spinning plate on a stick. If your roads aren't suitable for longboard wheels, then this category of boards may be your only option. Generally speaking, for the most enjoyment, you should use the smallest wheels that are appropriate for the situation. Smaller wheels are more stable, more nimble, weigh less, and allow for stronger acceleration and braking. So if you don't need all-terrain wheels, don't get an all-terrain board. But if you need them, then you need them. If you've never been on an electric skateboard, how are you supposed to know what size wheels you need? How do you know if you need an all-terrain board? Here are some tips. If you've seen others in your city use regular skateboards or longboards on roads, not at the skate park or sidewalks, but on actual roads with cars, then any electric skateboard should be fine on those roads as well. If your roads look smooth and free of debris, but nobody in your area skates, so you're not sure if they're good for skating, get a longboard that uses belt drive to allow you to change to larger wheels if necessary. If your roads are smooth but have lots of pebbles or other debris, you probably need an all-terrain board, but get it with wheels around 120mm if available, instead of the larger 6 or 7-inch wheels. And finally, if you'll be riding on dirt roads or uneven terrain, or if comfort is a lot more important to you than carving and portability, then you should get a board that uses all-terrain wheels. Most electric skateboards on the market today use either hub motors or belt drive motors. There are significant pros and cons to each type. If you want to be as discreet as possible, hub motors might be more suitable for you. The hub motors are hidden inside the wheels, and most of the time they're quieter than belt drive motors. Hub motors also require less maintenance than belt drive, usually. If a hub motor fails, normally you just replace that motor. If you go off-roading on an all-terrain board, hub motors are far less likely to get clogged by sand or other debris compared to belt drive motors. Most hub motor wheels use a really thin layer of urethane compared to normal longboard wheels, making them less comfortable and less grippy. Some hub motor boards give you 2 or 3 options for wheel sizes, but they can't compare with the variety you get from using belt drive. If you care about having wheel options, then hub motors are not for you. With belt drive motors, you can use any third-party longboard wheels that are compatible with your board's supplied wheel pulleys. This means you have way more options for wheel size, durometer, color, etc. You can also change the gear ratio using either supplied pulleys or third-party pulleys. This affects things like torque, range, and top speed. Compared to hub motor wheels of the same size, belt drive wheels, which are actual longboard wheels, are much more comfortable as they have way more urethane. Because the belts are partially exposed, tiny rocks can get into the drive system and damage the belt or pulley. Even if nothing gets in, chances are a belt is going to tear sooner or later. That's why belt drive boards normally come with spare belts. While not all belt drive systems are loud, they're generally louder than hub motors, and the outrunner motors are a dead giveaway that the board is electric. This can be costly for people who live in places that don't allow electric skateboards on roads. Despite requiring more maintenance and not being nearly as discreet as hub motors, I highly prefer belt drive over hub motors. They're just way more comfortable, and I like being able to change wheels for different situations. But I also understand the need to be low-key, especially since the city I live in doesn't allow skateboarding of any kind on roads. And when I ride in parks, I definitely get kicked out more when using belt drive. If only there were a drive system that offers the benefits of both hub motors and belt drive. This video is sponsored by Defective. Get your Kwan merch and e-skate inspired apparel and stickers at defective.com. Defective, not defective. That's defective.com. Direct drive motor is what the e-skate industry calls a motor that has a wheel attached to it without gears. It has the hub motor's benefit of being quiet and the belt drive motor's benefit of using actual wheels. This solves everything. Or does it? If you want versatility, belt drive still has the advantage because you can change gear ratios. For example, in the 2-in-1 boards, when you switch from street wheels to all-terrain wheels, you don't change only the wheels, you also change the gears. If you were to change to all-terrain wheels without changing the gears, you would notice a steep reduction in acceleration, brake strength, and range. But if you don't plan on making significant changes to your wheel size, direct drive motors may have the advantages that you want. So then, why do the biggest e-skate brands that use hub motors still use hub motors instead of direct drive? At this time, I haven't personally tried a board that uses direct drive, so I asked others who are more experienced. I talked to 3 different e-skate manufacturers and 3 individuals who make DIY boards. All of them, except for one manufacturer, pointed out various reliability issues with direct drive. Motors hitting the ground, magnets falling off, axles snapping. It sounded pretty horrible. The one manufacturer that disagreed, of course, uses direct drive in their boards. According to them, their direct drive boards did have those issues in the past, but they claim that those issues have been resolved since September 2019, about half a year ago. So let's quickly go through the pros and cons of direct drive. Boards that use direct drive motors can use real longboard wheels, so they are more comfortable than hub motors and give you way more options. They are quiet like hub motors, and although the motors are not completely hidden, they are more discreet than belt drive motors. Direct drive motors have not been around for as long as belt drive and hub motors, and far fewer people have used them, so their reliability may be questionable. And although you can change the wheels, you cannot change the gear ratio. Now let's talk about the performance of a board, what you should pay attention to, and what you should ignore. Electric skateboard manufacturers like to highlight their board's top speed for marketing, even though most boards on the market have roughly the same top speed. I don't personally care about the top speed, but many people do. Just don't make the mistake of thinking that a higher top speed means higher acceleration or more torque. When shopping for a car, many people look at horsepower and 0 to 60 times to get a rough idea of how powerful a car is compared to another car. But for electric skateboards, it's not so simple. I don't know of any e-skate manufacturer that measures acceleration. Obviously, you can't measure the 0 to 60 mph time for most boards, but there isn't any similar standard for e-skating, like a 0 to 100 meter time. And there isn't a single metric like horsepower that you can use to compare two boards. For electric skateboards, you'd have to take into consideration things like voltage and max current, motor kV and size, gear ratio, etc. Even for the same size motors, the difference in windings and magnets affect performance. So unfortunately for electric skateboards, you can't just look at manufacturer specs and know which board would perform better the same way that you can with cars. If you really care about straight line performance, I guess you just have to dig through a bunch of reviews. Some people would disagree, but in my opinion, the speed of an electric skateboard is one of the least important things to consider, mainly because most of the boards that I think you should look at have similar acceleration and top speeds anyway. Something more important that you should consider is the brake performance. The brake performance of different boards can vary a lot, and this is one area that frequently disappoints me on boards that are otherwise really good. Most boards do not have brakes that behave like brakes in a car. In a car, you can slam your foot on the brake pedal to make the car brake as hard as possible. But on many electric skateboards, if you pull back hard on the brake control, the board just gently slows down and lets you slam into the back of the car in front of you. If you'll never ride in traffic or around pedestrians, I guess having soft brakes doesn't really matter, but personally, I highly prefer a board that can brake hard. Not only do I want to avoid traffic accidents, I also want to brake hard for a turn the same way you would in a track car. An electric skateboard is just more fun when you can brake hard. There's another important thing to note about brake behavior, and it has to do with the ESC. ESC stands for Electronic Speed Control. This is the motherboard, or the brain of your electric skateboard. The majority of electric skateboards on the market today use some variation of either the Lingyi ESC or Hobbywing ESC. This isn't always stated in the product description, so you may need to ask the manufacturer or find out from product reviews. There are other ESCs, but again, mostly Lingyi or Hobbywing. Let's go over their pros and cons. Many, but not all boards that use the Lingyi ESC have this great feature where the board turns on by itself if you just push it forward or back a little. That means that you never have to bend down to turn on the board because
that's disgusting and I hate that.
Unlike boards that use Hobbywing, the brakes can lock the wheels when you're at a full stop. This is useful when you're at a red light on a slight incline. The throttle and brake controls of boards that use this variety of ESCs don't feel very accurate compared to boards that use Hobbywing. If you ride only one board, it's not that big of a deal. You get used to it. But if you have multiple boards and they use different ESCs, the difference in how the controls feel become very apparent. Compared to Lingyi, the throttle and brakes on boards that use Hobbywing's ESC feel much more accurate and intuitive. They just work the way you expect. For many people, including myself, this control accuracy is an absolute requirement. On a board that uses Hobbywing, if you turn off your remote while the board is still on, the brakes engage. That's supposedly a safety feature, but it becomes really annoying in actual use. There are often times when I ride somewhere that doesn't allow skating, such as a subway station or a shopping mall. Ideally, I'd like to just turn off the remote and pull the board. But because the brakes engage, if I want to pull the board, I must bend down and turn it off. That's disgusting, and I hate that. I should point out though that X-Way's ESC is manufactured by Hobbywing, but does not have this issue. But every other board that uses Hobbywing does. Gee, I wonder why. Despite that annoyance, I value the control accuracy that you get with Hobbywing's ESC much more than any special feature that the Lingyi ESC has to offer. Another thing to note is that not all Lingyi ESCs are the same, and not all Hobbywing ESCs are the same. If a board uses a Hobbywing ESC, that doesn't automatically mean that I'll like it. A common issue with boards that use Hobbywing is that the brakes are too soft, but the boards that have the best brake behavior also use Hobbywing. If you're getting confused, don't worry, I'm going to summarize everything at the end. For now, let's move on to range. When comparing the range of boards from different manufacturers, do not compare them based on the manufacturer's stated range. There is no standard for how range is measured across different brands. Instead of looking at the stated range, look at the battery capacity in watt-hours. If two boards have similar size wheels and are similar in weight, then the board with the higher capacity battery should have more range. For example, if one board's battery is 144 watt-hours and another is 260 watt-hours, and the two boards are similar in size, you can confidently assume that the 260 watt-hour board would have more range. If the two numbers are close, then it's harder to predict which one would have more range. But in that case, the range should be similar enough that you shouldn't choose one over the other based on range. For some reason, some manufacturers don't show the battery capacity in watt-hours. To see how to convert eSkate battery specs to watt-hours, go to Kwan.com. More important than which board can go farther is how far a board can go for you. The range of a board can vary a lot depending on your weight, how you ride, and your environment. If you assume a certain set of conditions, you can get a fairly accurate range estimate for different boards. Here's how. Take a look at these tables, which you can also find at Kwan.com. In fact, you should look at the ones on the website because I'll probably update them later for accuracy. Then find out the board's battery capacity in watt-hours. Once you have those numbers, just divide them and you get your estimated range. If your area has hills or you ride more aggressively, then expect to get less range. If you encounter traffic and ride more slowly, then expect to get more range. Again, the range can vary by a lot. It would be totally normal to get 30 kilometers one day and 15 kilometers the next because of different conditions. Even though more range is always nice, remember that when you're skateboarding, you're not always riding in a straight line. You need quality skate components to get a quality e-skating experience. There was a time when none of the affordable electric skateboard brands used quality parts, but that's not the case anymore. In this section, I'm going to talk about the different skateboard parts that you should pay attention to. I won't go into a lot of detail, I'll just tell you what I feel a newcomer to e-skating should know. Because of boosted board, many people have this impression that flexi decks are always better than stiff decks. I was one of those people, but I found out that it really depends. And like everything else, there are pros and cons to different types of decks. Generally speaking, stiff decks have better handling, especially at higher speeds. But flexi decks are more comfortable. If you're not sure which kind to get, I wouldn't worry about it. Just make sure that whichever board you choose has at least a little bit of concave in the deck. Quality trucks are important if you plan on carving, but it's hard to tell if a board has good trucks without trying them. Fortunately, today there are boards that come with reputable brand name trucks like Caliber, Paris, and Seismic. X-Way has recently designed their own trucks, which they call Trist, and these are arguably better than the brand name trucks. Some boards use trucks that are clones of popular brands. They're not always good, but the Paris clones that I've tried seem to do just fine. As for double kingpin trucks on different all-terrain boards, I think they're all about the same, but with different bushings. In any case, right now I don't think you can choose an all-terrain board without double kingpin trucks, because there aren't any, unless you're willing to spend more than $2,000. But for the long boards and short boards, be sure to choose a board with good trucks because they can make the skating experience really good or really bad. Manufacturers often list a bunch of specs about their boards, but some of them that sound very impressive should be totally ignored. Just like range, there is no standard of measuring hill climbing ability across different brands, but this number can sort of be useful if you're comparing different boards within the same brand. Boosted claims 2100 watts for the Boosted Stealth. Wow! So is it twice as fast as a board that claims 1000 watts? No. Does it have twice as much torque? No. Does it have twice as much range? No. It really doesn't tell you anything useful. You can totally ignore this number. All electric skateboards have regenerative brakes, even the ones that don't list this as a feature. Boosted has 5 modes, Wildgo has 4, Backfire has 2 plus turbo. Who cares? This really doesn't matter at all. Don't choose a board based on how many ride modes it has. Some boards are more water resistant than others, but none of them are waterproof. No matter which board you get, if you end up riding in rain, try to dry it off as soon as possible. Even if the electronics are well protected, certain parts can rust, and the deck can become warped. I know that was a lot of info. By now you're either more informed or more confused. Let me know which in the comments. Either way, let's summarize. Here are the main things to consider when choosing your first electric skateboard. The size of the board. Should you get a short board, a long board, or an all-terrain board? Drive system. Should you use hub motors, belt drive, or direct drive? Speed. Don't confuse top speed with acceleration or torque. Brakes. Most boards have mediocre brakes. Very few have good brakes. ESC. Hobby Wing is generally better than Ling Yi. Just my opinion, but it's true. Range. Use the battery specs to estimate range so you don't have to rely on manufacturer's claims. Skateboard components. Make sure the board has a good deck and good trucks. And finally, which specs to ignore. Rewind this video if you don't remember. Once you've taken those things into consideration and narrowed down your choices, head on over to dquan.com to find the best deal on the board you want. If you purchase a board using my affiliate link and discount, I'll even send you a page of stickers which are worth 1000 gil. If you still need help, leave a comment.